Hi.
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 Hi. Hello.
Hi.
Your name is?
Rebecca.
Stiti.
My name is Nepa.
Adrika.
My name is Riza Nyacha.
Inshara Limpo.
I'm Raksha Maske.
Sastra Koirala.
Sasha.
Anushka.
I'm Asmi Aryal.
Dipti Sharma.
Krisha.
Azarigni.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep. I'm ready.
Especially in Nepal where we live, women like ekdamai high expectation garirakheko huncha. So for example, मेरो घरको example दिँदा चाहिँ like the men in my house are supposed to just sit back and relax while women are supposed to cook and learn everything. Otherwise they get like taunt मार्छ कि त बिहा गरेपछि के गर्छस्.
We're expected to learn how to cook not because it's a life skill, but because सासुमाले पछि गएर के भन्छ.
Personally, I have not, but I do know like lots of people who have. I grew up in like a very free household, if you'd call it that. So I never really experienced any of that pressure.
Kind of in an opposite way, I've always felt the need to be like boyish. When I look around and even like media, when I was like a kid, it was TV and how women were portrayed as weak and fragile. Like I always wanted to be the opposite of it.
I've never felt directly pressured by the expectations of the society has for women, but indirectly hearing how they want women to settle down, and by their definition of settle down, it's like having a husband, having a house built by the husband, and having kids, preferably sons. That sort of makes me feel pressurized because that is not the expectations I have for my life, but I've never directly felt pressured.
In many situations, even academically, choosing a certain field that you might not want to because of society's pressure.
There's certain like different way of different expectations from women from like those that have expected from men. We're not allowed to do certain things. We're not supposed to do certain things despite wanting to. So I feel like I definitely have felt that pressure.
From the way that we sit, from the way that we talk, and from the way that we present ourselves to the society, and it's hard to keep up with some of them at times.
I think there's a lot of restrictions that are placed on like what I can do and what like my male peers can do. So like for example, if like my male peers are out of the house until like 8 p.m, like I don't think they'll get yelled at. But then if I don't enter the house before 6, oh god.
Common example लिँदाखेरि चाहिँ यस्तो कि अब हुन्छ नि केही फिजिकल स्ट्रेन्थ चाहिने काम छ या के अब एक्जाम्पलमा केही टेबलहरू सार्नु छ भने मेल्सहरूलाई दिन्छ लाइक हाम्रो केटा साथीहरूलाई दिन्छ तर इफ गर्ल्स आर टु बी असाइन सम टास्क इट्स अलवेज लिमिटेड टु सम डेलिकेट टास्क हुन्छ आर्ट एन्ड क्राफ्ट गर्ने त्यस्तो खालको
नर्मल सिम्पल ड्रेस लुगा लगाउँदा पनि they get like हुन्छ नि पुरै एकदम attention खोज्न गरेको like हुन्छ नि त्यस्तो कमेन्ट्सहरू while men can just like wear shorts and do whatever they want.
As I was growing up, there were many times when we heard boys will be boys, when they did something wrong, when they fought in the class, when they were screaming on top of their lungs. But for us, whenever we were chatting maybe in a table, the teachers would be like, oh my god, girls, you're doing this too? So there's a very different scale of being good and bad for boys and girls.
Something that I've really noticed is like male students or like male friends, in a way, they do like get away with a lot of stuff. I'll give one example of like when I was in first grade. But there was this guy and he was chasing me, right? And I was like running away. I was like, oh my god, I need to get away. I was running away. And then I saw this like sir who was standing over there, who was our teacher. And then I went to him and I told him like, sir, this guy's chasing me. I'm really scared. Like, can you tell him not to? And he was like, don't worry, he's only doing that because he likes you and he finds you pretty. Like, that's what the sir told me, right? So I think a lot of these things are brushed off as like, oh, boys will be boys, let them do it.
I really don't see any difference between we are treated, I think, and I feel privileged for that. I shouldn't be feeling privileged because that's something expected, but right, I know that there are like areas where that's not the case, and so yeah.
I think they are criticized a lot less than I am.
Male peers, if I have to talk about like male in general, especially gharbela, like when we're going somewhere or relative to gharbela, the women aunties are always in the kitchen working, and then
the males, the uncles, fathers, grandfathers, always like talking, sitting, अनि यो ल्याइदेऊ त्यो ल्याइदेऊ भन्दा like that's a lot of difference I see.
कोही केटीहरूका लाइक हुन्छ आउटस्पोकन छ भने होइन अनि हिँडिरहेको छ भने उसलाई कस्तो कस्तो केटाहरूसँग मिल्नु खोजेको रहेको कस्तो लाइक कस्तो राउडी छ भन्छ होइन तर when like guys have the same thing like they're like oh कस्तो like मतलबै गर्दैन केटाहरू यस्तै त हो गर्छ so yeah.
I do anything in my power for women to not feel like they're commodities and they have to meet the society's expectations for being perfect.
बाटोमा हिँड्दाखेरि जुन जिस्काउँछ नि केटीहरूलाई, that is something I would really like to change.
A lot of the smaller things that matter to me personally because they hit a lot harder than some of the really big problems. Like some of the really big problems, a huge percentage of people do experience that, but then it's like I don't think you can generalize that sort of like crime, you know. But with the smaller things, it's extremely difficult to like put it out as a problem because some people are like, oh, that's just like life. Why are you complaining about that? It's the way of life. It's like you've been doing that forever. Why are you complaining about that? But those things like really need to change.
I would like the women in my life to be able to wear whatever they want and not be judged for how they present themselves.
The issue or the problem I want to fix is that, for example, if a woman's more driven towards her career, then it seems like she's neglecting her family, but that's not the case for a man. He's seen like a leader or something like that, and I want to change that. I want people to see women and men in the same position equally.
To sort of take out the discrimination from their head. Not for like our generation, but the previous generations, I guess. They still have that sense of, you know, like they're lower than men for some reason. So I would take that out of their mindset.
I feel like the women themselves don't realize that what they're facing is sort of sexist. Like the people around her are sexist. I've seen women who are not afraid to speak their minds, but they don't realize that it's sexist. So I'd really like for them to notice those little facts and speak for themselves because I know that they can.
I also want us to be able to do the things we want without worrying about problems that others are causing for us.
Yes, a lot of times because I'm held back from wearing certain types of clothes I like or like voicing my opinions. The expectations from women, from the society is so ingrained that there is no escape from that.
Lots of other things that have prevented me from doing things before, like sometimes it'll be like, oh, what if everybody makes fun of me, blah, blah, but I've never been like, oh, I'm not going to do this because I'm a woman and they're going to say stuff about me. That's never happened.
So basically, अब हाम्रोमा चाहिँ केटी मान्छेहरू चाहिँ राति ढिलोसम्म बाहिर जानु हुँदैन, एक्लै बाहिर जानु हुँदैन भनेर जुन जान पाउँदैन. आई थिङ्क लाइक म केटा भएको भए मलाई दिन्थ्यो नै होला नि कसैले क्वेसन नै गर्दैन थियो किन यति रातिसम्म बाहिर कोसँग. So yeah, that.
I've never felt held back, but I always gave my best so that my gender doesn't come in between like anything that I want to do.
I've been told by so many people like don't dress like this or like don't go out after like 5 or something like that, and I always think like that's not my problem that there are men who are staring at me. Rather than controlling me, like just ask them to stop. It's not our problem, it's theirs.
Well, I don't ever think I've felt that, but then again I am from a country where girls get married before the age of 15. So I think for them it's a lot worse than it's for us, especially living in urban areas and getting the kind of education we're getting. Well, definitely among my peers, I think it's girls do support girls enough. But then among older women, I think they have so much of internalized misogyny that they feel the need to police other women just so that they can have a good future and be accepted by the society.
I don't think so. There's a lot of talk around it. It's a very like almost like a glamorized topic where everyone's like, oh yes, girls support girls, we're always there for each other. We're always like supporting each other no matter what happens. But I think that's not really true when it's like, when you look at it in a practical sense, it's not really implemented. It's like, yeah, girls support girls. I think it's very like faux feminism at times where it's like, it's just, they're just saying it to be said.
Girls do not support girls enough. They do talk to each other and they do support them, but if we see like posts on Instagram, there are going to be positive and negative comments under a post of a female, even though like a post is a normal post or something she's confident in, there are always going to be comments. And though we talk to each other in a nice way in front of each other, we often find them backbiting about each other and just making nasty comments and calling each other names.
With girls of my age, especially among my friends, I feel like girls do support girls enough.
This is something I've observed, that women are the first one to judge someone or judge a woman or pass a judgment or like say something snarky that could really push back a woman.
I don't think so. Because if you really think about it, if you take the context of Nepal, it's always the aunties, always the grandmothers, always the mothers who are talking like bad things about women. ऊ मोटायो, ऊ दुब्लो भयो, यसको पढाइ बिग्रियो, त्यो हेर्न रातभरि बाहिर हुन्छे. You never see that. Well, not never, but then it's usually things that are coming out of other women came out.
But suppose like us girls we dress however we want, like we after makeup गर्नु छ भने आफै गर्छ, आफ्नो लागि हो नि त, अरूको लागि हैन नि त. तर like हाम्रो स्कुलमा suppose if people wear like mascara and come, oh my god, उसलाई किन नक्कली हुनु परेको, or like, but then this is the like, I think that's not girls supporting girls. Girls like they feel, oh आफूलाई लाउनु मलाई लगायो.
I feel like myself when I'm with my friends, because the friend circle I have, like they really respect me, like as a woman.
As a young woman, I feel more like myself when I'm around the people I like, or जसँग म vibe गर्न सक्छु राम्रोसँग. They make me feel safe and happy and जन एकदम precious feel गराउँछ. So like around them,
I feel like there are a lot of expectations I have to meet up to, but when I'm in my room alone with some music on, I feel the most like myself.
As a young woman, I feel most like myself when I'm alone and doing things that I enjoy, especially when I'm with animals, with dogs, playing with them. I feel like myself.
When I'm like doing something that is like not traditionally considered feminine, I feel the most like a young woman. I don't know if it makes sense, but that's what's true for me.
Doing things that I like, well, I don't know, like painting and stuff. I mean, I don't know how that makes me feel like a woman, but just like my best version, I guess.
I think that would be when I'm around other young women my age.
I feel like being on court, tennis court, is my happy place, and it's an environment where my coaches, the people, they won't really judge me, and I feel like very strong, and I don't have to care about how I look or if I have to be pretty. I can just be myself in that stage right there.
I feel like this, like यस्तो कुराहरु, like हुन्छ नि, sharing our experiences or like women podcast.
I know that raising awareness is such a general answer, but I feel like this is it for this topic right here, because people don't realize it as much. Not even just women, even men. Everybody has to be aware of that fact, and it has to be addressed very minutely to address all those minute the statements that they make or like the way they act, so it's gonna help.
It's like letting anyone do whatever they want to and make them feel comfortable.
When they're like young, try to like incorporate like these issues slowly so that they truly understand the depth of it. Like very simple things like you know how like family gatherings are women always have to eat last, they need to serve everyone, and then they need to eat, then they need to clean up, do everything by themselves. Like those sort of things, when you're a young boy or a young girl, the girl might think it's like, oh, it's natural, I have to do this, and then the boy will probably be like, oh, that's also natural, later on my wife will have to do it, right? So when you like sort of incorporate these ideas from a young age that like, oh, this is not normal, it's not natural, I think they'll grow up to feel that it's like not natural, and they'll change things so that we can take a step towards like changing like fully the structure, because I think we have a long way till we reach like where we want to reach.
Like I said, the restrictions that we have on women, if we try to reduce those restrictions or make it more lenient, like have them the same as our male peers.
For years we've been fighting to have the equal rights as men. or like, you know, we've still been struggling, but we're growing. So if we stop for a second, then we're going to be 10 steps back. So I think we shouldn't stop, and there's still more space to grow, but we will eventually reach there.
Love yourself in a way that no man can ever, and treat yourself like you deserve to be treated.
The expectations they have is unrealistic. Look out for each other, and we all have similar struggles and similar problems, so just be kind to each other.
Be proud of being feminine.
Just don't confine yourself, like, you know, society has made a perception of an ideal woman. You don't have to fit that mold. You can just be an ideal person and be happy.
If you're doing the right thing and you like what you're doing, then it's all that matters.
Don't feel so pressured because everyone's going to judge you regardless. Just do whatever you want to.